You know, like there's not a form of respect in the locker room and all that, and we understand that. So it just took time in a lot of relationships and, you know, the key players to be able to get on the same page and be able to do it, and it'll be.
Nobody asked him to be there. No one put it on the schedule. No coach sent a message. No team memo went out. No mandatory sign-in sheet was waiting at the door. And yet, Shedeur Sanders showed up anyway, cleats laced, arm warm, and ready to work. That right there should tell you everything you need to know about where this young man's head is at right now. Because there is a massive difference between a quarterback who shows up when he has to and a quarterback who shows up when nobody's watching. One of those quarterbacks becomes a backup. The other one becomes a franchise cornerstone. Drop a fire in the comments right now if you think Shedeur Sanders is going to be Cleveland's Week 1 starter. Let's see what Gridiron Ground is working with today. And if this is your first time here, you are going to want to hit that subscribe button before this video is over, because what we are about to break down is something the mainstream media completely missed.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Pass play that we ran at the Ravens, just like it'll be here with our quarterbacks. There's not a concept we'll run more than scramble. There isn't. It's going to come up 5 times a game. That's 85 times a year. Not curl flat, not 4 verts, not any flood routes. So you better be damn good at your scramble rules. You better be damn good at uncovering for your quarterback. And we tried like heck, and we still could have been better for Lamar because he's in elite.
Let's set the scene properly because context matters here. NFL training camps operate on a very specific calendar. There are mandatory windows, optional windows, and then there are the sessions that exist somewhere in between, the ones where showing up says more about a player's character than anything they could ever do in an interview. This was one of those sessions. Voluntary. No pressure, no obligation, and Shedeur Sanders walked through that door in Berea anyway. Think about what that decision actually means when you peel back the surface of it. This is a young man who just went through one of the most public, most scrutinized, and frankly most disrespectful NFL draft processes in recent memory. He sat and watched his phone not ring for round after round. He fielded questions about his attitude, his father, his football ability, and his character, all while the entire league watched. Most people in that situation take a minute. They breathe. They decompress. They do not voluntarily show up to throw footballs before they are even required to. But that is what separates Shedeur Sanders from the conversation people keep trying to put him in. The one where they say he is too soft, too sheltered, too comfortable in his father's shadow to be a legitimate NFL starter. Every single one of those narratives took a hit the moment he walked into that Berea facility and started working. And the work itself was not just symbolic. It was not a PR exercise or a photo opportunity. Once Shedeur Sanders got into the rhythm of that session, it became immediately clear that this was a quarterback who had spent the entire offseason dialing himself in. The footwork was sharp. The release was quick. The decision-making in live reps was the kind of stuff that makes coaches nod to each other when they think nobody is looking. The moment that genuinely turned heads came during the 7-on-7 portion. 7-on-7 is where quarterbacks either prove they can read a defense in real time or expose the fact that they cannot. There is no offensive line to buy extra time. There is no run game to keep the defense honest. It is the quarterback, the pass catchers, and the coverage, and whoever blinks first loses. Shedeur did not blink. He was cycling through his reads with a fluency that you do not typically see from a player who has not even played his first regular season NFL snap yet. And then came the throw that everyone in that facility will be talking about for a while. Shedeur scanned right, identified the coverage, processed it in real time, and then found Harold Fannin Jr. cutting across the middle of the field, and he did not just throw it to him. He wove the ball through 2 defenders, threading a window that would have made half the starting quarterbacks in this league pump fake twice before either forcing it or checking down. Harold Fannin Jr. caught it clean, and the energy on that field shifted. You could feel it, because that was not a practice throw. That was a statement. And what made it even more significant was what it revealed about the connection Shedeur has been quietly building with his receiving core since the moment he arrived in Cleveland. But that connection did not happen by accident, and the story behind it is more important than the throw itself. Chemistry between a quarterback and a wide receiver is one of those things in football that gets talked about constantly but rarely gets explained properly. People throw the word around like it is some kind of magic, like two players just look at each other and suddenly they are in sync. That is not how it works. Real chemistry is built in the dark. It is built in the early morning sessions before the rest of the team arrives, in the film rooms after everyone else has gone home, and in the repetitions that no camera crew is there to document. What Shedeur Sanders and Harold Fannin Jr. are building right now is exactly that kind, and the reason it matters so much is because of who Harold Fannin Jr. is as a football player. This is not a one-dimensional route runner who can only beat man coverage or only operate in a specific area of the field. Fannin is a complete receiving weapon.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
His hands are reliable in a way that gives a quarterback genuine confidence. The kind where you can throw a dart into traffic and trust that your receiver is going to come down with it regardless of what the coverage is doing around him. His route running is precise in a way that creates consistent separation, not through raw speed, but through footwork and deception. He knows how to set up a defensive back, how to manipulate leverage, and how to position his body so that by the time the football arrives, he is already in the best possible spot to catch it and gain yards after the reception. But the thing that makes Fannin genuinely special, the thing that makes him the perfect complement to what Shedeur Sanders does as a passer, is his feel for zone coverage. Sitting down in soft spots inside a zone defense sounds simple when you describe it, but executing it during a live session against NFL-caliber defensive backs is something that requires not just physical skill, but a deep understanding of the game. Harold Fannin Jr. has that understanding, and more importantly, he and Shedeur are already operating on the same wavelength when it comes to reading those zone shells together. When Shedeur's eyes go somewhere, Harold already knows what that means. When Shedeur feels the pocket collapsing and needs to reset his launch point, Harold adjusts his route accordingly. That kind of instinct does not develop during mandatory minicamp. It develops when two players voluntarily put in the time together before any of that is required. And based on everything we have seen from this connection already, they have clearly been doing exactly that. The throw in the 7-on-7 session was the headline moment, but if you watch the full session closely, there are several other exchanges between Shedeur and Fannin that tell the same story. Quick slants where the timing was perfect. Intermediate crossers where Harold sat down exactly when Shedeur needed him to. A back shoulder fade on the sideline that only works when the quarterback and receiver have developed a shared visual language about body positioning and ball placement. All of it points toward the same conclusion. This connection is real, it is growing, and it is going to give opposing defensive coordinators a serious problem come the regular season. And the coaching staff is already paying very close attention to what they are watching develop. When a head coach speaks to the media during the early stages of a training program, every single word is calculated. These are not casual conversations. These are carefully chosen statements that simultaneously communicate a message to the public while also setting a tone for what the team is prioritizing internally. So when Todd Monken stepped in front of the microphones and started talking about quarterback protection and offensive philosophy, it was worth paying very close attention to what he was actually saying underneath the surface of it. Monken made a specific point of emphasizing that protecting the quarterback is a foundational priority for the Browns heading into this season. Not just in the way that every team says they want to protect their quarterback, but in a very specific, deliberate way that pointed toward the style of offense he intends to build. He talked about keeping bodies on the line. He talked about the importance of giving the quarterback time to operate from the pocket. And then he brought up scramble rules, the concept that governs what receivers and the quarterback do when a play breaks down and the signal caller has to move off his spot. Here is what Monken said, and it is worth really sitting with this for a moment. He made clear that scramble rules will come up roughly 5 times per game, translating to around 85 times over the course of a full season. And he emphasized that every single player in that offense needs to be elite at executing those rules when those moments arise. But that emphasis told its own story. Because a coordinator who is building an offense around a quarterback who runs the ball constantly does not need to carve out special lessons on what to do when the pocket breaks down. That becomes the default mode. The scramble becomes the plan, not the contingency. The fact that Monken is treating scramble situations as relatively rare, as edge cases that need to be sharp but are not the engine of the offense, tells you that he is building this system around a quarterback who operates from the pocket first, second, and third. A quarterback who processes the field quickly enough that the pocket rarely needs to break down in the first place. A quarterback who makes his money throwing the football, not with his legs. Now layer that reality on top of everything we have already watched Shedeur Sanders do in these sessions, and the picture starts to come into very sharp focus. Shedeur is not a running quarterback. He has never been a running quarterback. His entire development as a passer has been built around pocket presence, field vision, quick processing, and accuracy at every level of the field. He is quite literally the exact quarterback that Todd Monken just described wanting to build his offense around. Monken was careful not to name names. He did not walk up to that podium and announce that Shedeur Sanders is QB1. But the portrait he painted of his ideal signal caller fits Shedeur Sanders so precisely that reading between the lines does not require much imagination. The dots connect themselves when you look at them honestly. And what Shedeur did back in minicamp only reinforced that connection even further. Here is something that got lost in the noise of the off-season drama and the draft night storylines and the endless talking head debates. Shedeur Sanders was absolutely on fire during minicamp, and the level of composure and execution he displayed during those sessions was something that genuinely surprised people who showed up skeptical and left as believers. The sharpness was visible from the very first series of the very first session. His preparation was meticulous in a way that stood out even in a room full of professional football players. His demeanor was calm in a way that is almost unusual for a rookie navigating their first real NFL environment. And the precision of his execution on every single throw was the kind of thing that made even the most skeptical coaches on that sideline take a second look. The staff put him in with the first team offense, and he treated every single snap like it was the fourth quarter of a playoff game with everything on the line. That mentality cascaded through the entire session and built to the moment that everybody who was there is still talking about. Early in the proceedings, Shedeur Sanders lined up with the first team offense in a red zone situation and took the snap with the kind of calm that you would expect from a 10-year veteran who has been in that exact spot hundreds of times before. He took his drop, went through his reads with deliberate efficiency, and then launched a touchdown pass to Denzel Boston that had the entire sideline reacting immediately. This was not a gimme throw. This was not the kind of scripted practice red zone touchdown where the defense is playing vanilla coverage and the offensive play design creates a layup for the quarterback. This was Shedeur identifying a specific window in the coverage, calculating exactly where Boston needed to be to get there ahead of the defender, and then placing the ball precisely into that window at the exact moment his receiver arrived. Denzel Boston did not have to break stride. He did not have to reach. He did not have to fight for the catch. The ball was exactly where it needed to be, and the only reason it was there is because the person who threw it is operating at a level that very few quarterbacks in this league can consistently reach. That window, the one Shedeur threaded that ball through, is the window that separates the elite passers from everybody else. It is tight. It requires anticipation, not reaction. It requires trusting your receiver to run the route correctly before your eyes have confirmed it. It requires the courage to release the football before the play is fully developed, based entirely on your internal processing of where everything is going to be. Most quarterbacks see that window and hesitate. Some see it and miss it. The great ones see it, believe in it, and hit it with consistency. On that throw to Denzel Boston in the red zone, Shedeur Sanders looked like one of the great ones, and he was not finished demonstrating that for anyone who was watching. There is a specific kind of quarterback throw that carries more psychological weight than any other in professional football. It is not the clutch fourth-quarter touchdown. It is not the perfectly placed back shoulder fade on 3rd and long. It is the deep ball. The throw that requires everything a quarterback has: the mechanics, the arm strength, the timing, the trust in the receiver, and the sheer belief that the football is going to travel 50-plus yards through the air and find its target. Because the deep ball is where a lot of quarterbacks with legitimate arm talent separate themselves from the ones who have everything else but not that. You can be accurate on short and intermediate routes. You can process quickly and get the ball out fast. You can manage a game effectively and make smart decisions consistently. But if you cannot threaten the defense vertically with the football, defensive coordinators will compress the field against you and dare you to beat them over the top. And if you cannot do it, they will win that dare every time. Shedeur Sanders answered that question definitively in minicamp, and he answered it in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. After the red zone touchdown to Denzel Boston, a throw that already had everyone talking, he stepped back into the huddle with that same calm energy, lined up, and launched a Hail Mary that Isaiah Bond ran under and hauled in at the other end of the field. Now take that sequence in its full context. You open up a minicamp session with a precision red zone touchdown that demonstrates your ability to navigate tight coverage windows with pinpoint accuracy. And then, almost immediately, you follow it up by going the complete opposite direction, airing it out to the deepest part of the field with enough arm strength and enough touch to give your receiver a chance to go up and get it. That is the full spectrum of what a complete NFL quarterback needs to be able to do, and Shedeur Sanders demonstrated both ends of it in the span of a single practice session. The Hail Mary to Isaiah Bond matters for reasons beyond the obvious. A Hail Mary is a throw that requires a very specific combination of arm strength and arc. Too flat, and the ball arrives too fast with too much velocity for a receiver to handle in a crowd. Too high, and it hangs in the air long enough for defenders to converge and make a play on it. The ideal Hail Mary has enough loft to give the receiver time to get underneath it, enough distance to reach the target, and enough placement to give one man a real opportunity against multiple defenders. Shedeur's throw to Isaiah Bond had all of that. Bond had to work for it, but the ball gave him every opportunity to make the catch. For every analyst who has spent months questioning whether Shedeur Sanders has the arm talent to play at this level, that throw is your answer. Clip it, study it, and ask yourself what else you need to see. Because the person throwing that football in practice does not look like a question mark. He looks like someone who has been preparing for this exact moment his entire life. And yet, despite all of it, the doubters have not gone quiet. Rex Ryan has been loud. That is the most accurate way to describe his presence in this particular conversation, and it is probably the most charitable. Over the past several months, Ryan has positioned himself as one of the more outspoken voices in the growing chorus of analysts and former players who have lined up to tell anyone who would listen that Shedeur Sanders is not a legitimate NFL quarterback. The takes have varied in their specifics but remained consistent in their conclusion. That Shedeur is a product of his environment at Colorado, that his numbers were inflated by the system his father built around him, and that the NFL game would expose him quickly and harshly. Ryan is far from the only one who has taken that position. There has been an entire infrastructure built around doubting this young man. Former players, analysts, draft evaluators, social media voices, the line of people waiting to predict Shedeur's failure has been long enough to wrap around the building. And the arguments have touched everything. His arm strength, his pocket mobility, his decision-making under NFL-level pressure, his attitude, his relationship with his father, his draft stock collapse. Every angle has been worked and reworked until the narrative of Shedeur Sanders, as a cautionary tale, felt almost pre-written. Here is what makes all of it fascinating. Shedeur has not gone on television to fight back. He has not gone on social media to clap at his critics. He has not given a single interview where he laid out a point-by-point rebuttal of every take that has been directed at him. Because he understands something that a lot of people in his position would forget under the weight of that kind of pressure. The tape always wins. The film does not care about opinions. The scoreboard does not care about preseason narratives. The only thing that matters in the NFL is what you do when those pads go on and the play clock starts. And what Shedeur Sanders is doing every single time he steps onto a practice field is producing tape that makes those narratives progressively harder to sustain. Thread a dart to Harold Fannin Jr. through two defenders and you answer the question about his decision-making and accuracy under pressure. Drop a red zone touchdown on Denzel Boston that only elite passers can consistently execute, and you answer the question about his arm talent in the clutch. Launch a deep ball to Isaiah Bond that covers the full length of the field, and you answer the question about whether he can threaten a defense vertically. Every single practice session is a page in the rebuttal that Shedeur Sanders is writing without saying a single word, and there is something deeply mature about that approach. Most 22-year-olds in the middle of a media storm of this magnitude would crack. They would say something in an interview that gets clipped and turned into a headline. They would post something that becomes a distraction. Shedeur keeps showing up, keeps working, and keeps putting the football exactly where it needs to go. That is not the behavior of a player who is trying to survive the spotlight. That is the behavior of a player who has decided to own it, and the Cleveland Browns are watching all of it very carefully. To truly understand the magnitude of what Shedeur Sanders is building right now, you have to understand what the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation has looked like for the better part of 3 decades. This is a franchise that has cycled through signal callers at a pace that would make most teams dizzy. Names that arrived with promise and left with disappointment. Draft picks that never developed. Veteran stopgaps that held the position warm without ever making it their own. The Browns have been searching for a legitimate franchise quarterback for so long that the search itself became part of the team's identity. That history is the backdrop for everything Shedeur Sanders is doing right now, and it is why every single one of these practice moments carries more weight than it would in almost any other NFL city. Cleveland does not just need a good quarterback. Cleveland needs a quarterback who can end the conversation, redefine the franchise, and give a fan base that has waited patiently through a lot of painful seasons something real to believe in going forward. The building blocks that have emerged from these voluntary sessions and minicamp are not random occurrences. They are the early chapters of a story that the Browns are very intentionally beginning to write. The Harold Fannin Jr. connection gives the offense a reliable intermediate option that can work against any coverage. The Denzel Boston red zone package gives them a big play threat in scoring territory. The Isaiah Bond deep ball option gives the offense a vertical dimension that forces defenses to respect the entire field. And at the center of all of it is a quarterback who is showing, not telling, the organization that he is the person to build around. Todd Monken's offensive philosophy, with its emphasis on pocket passing and protection, was essentially designed for a quarterback with Shedeur's skill set. The system and the player fit together in a way that does not happen accidentally in the NFL. It happens when a coaching staff identifies a specific kind of quarterback, installs a specific kind of system, and then watches with genuine excitement as those two things begin to click into place during practice. The buzz around Shedeur Sanders is not manufactured. It is not driven by his famous last name or by the storyline of his unconventional path to the NFL. It is being driven by what people are watching on that practice field every single day. The throws are real. The chemistry is real. The coaching staff's enthusiasm is real. And the direction this is all heading in is becoming clearer with every single session that Shedeur Sanders steps into and dominates. Rex Ryan can keep filling airtime. The analysts can keep running their skepticism up the flagpole and seeing who salutes it. None of that changes what is happening on the field in Berea. None of that changes the tape that Todd Monken and his staff are reviewing every night after practice. And none of that changes the fact that right now, based on every available piece of evidence, Shedeur Sanders is trending toward becoming exactly what the Cleveland Browns have been desperately searching for: a franchise quarterback who can finally close the book on one of the most frustrating chapters in NFL history. The work is being done quietly, consistently, and with a level of intent that does not go unnoticed for long. There is a conversation happening inside that Browns facility that the cameras are not fully capturing, and it might actually be the most important conversation of this entire situation, because statistics can be manufactured in practice. Highlight throws can happen on a good day. Chemistry can look real during a low-pressure voluntary session and completely fall apart once the lights get bright and the stakes get real. All of that is true. But there is one thing that cannot be faked under any circumstances, in any environment, at any level of professional football, and that is genuine locker room leadership. Leadership is felt before it is ever seen on a stat sheet. It shows up in the way a quarterback carries himself when a drive stalls and the offense trudges back to the sideline. It shows up in the way he treats the rookie receiver who just ran the wrong route and cost the team a clean rep. It shows up in the film room at 6 in the morning when nobody is grading him on attendance. And based on everything coming out of Berea right now, Shedeur Sanders is passing every single one of those invisible tests. His teammates are gravitating toward him. That is not a small detail, that is the detail. Because NFL locker rooms are brutally honest environments. Players in those buildings have seen every type of quarterback personality imaginable. They have seen the ones who talk a big game and shrink when the moment arrives. They have seen the ones who collect the glory and disappear when accountability is required. They know the difference between a quarterback who is performing leadership and a quarterback who actually has it. And when a locker room full of grown professional men starts organically gravitating toward a rookie, that tells you something that no amount of media coverage ever could. The buy-in from his teammates is showing up in the way they talk about him when the microphones are nearby, and more importantly in the way they work alongside him when the microphones are nowhere to be found. Receivers are running their routes with the kind of sharpness that only comes when they trust the person throwing the football. Offensive linemen are communicating protection calls with a sense of urgency that reflects the understanding that the quarterback behind them is worth protecting at all costs. That energy does not come from a depth chart designation. It comes from earning it one rep at a time. And then there is the pressure element, which cannot be understated here. The microscope that Shedeur Sanders is operating under right now is unlike anything most NFL rookies have ever had to navigate. Every incompletion gets dissected nationally. Every practice rep is being evaluated not just by his own coaching staff, but by an entire media ecosystem that has already decided what his story is supposed to look like. That is an enormous psychological weight to carry into a voluntary training session before your first NFL season has even officially begun. The fact that Shedeur Sanders is not just surviving that pressure, but actively thriving under it, showing up early, throwing with precision, building chemistry, earning trust, suggests that what Cleveland may have found is not just a quarterback with a good arm. They may have found the kind of player who makes an entire franchise better simply by being in the building. And that, more than any single throw, is what a franchise cornerstone actually looks like. Because the throws will come and go, The highlight reel will grow over time, but the leadership, that is what turns a struggling franchise into a winning one. And right now, that foundation is being laid in Berea, one voluntary rep at a time. Here is where everything lands. A quarterback nobody asked to show up, showed up. And then he started throwing the football at a level that made everyone in that building take notice. The Harold Fannin Jr. connection is real and growing. The Todd Monken offensive system is built for exactly the kind of passer Shedeur Sanders is becoming. The minicamp performances, the Denzel Boston red zone touchdown, the Isaiah Bond deep ball are not isolated moments. They are a pattern, and that pattern points in one very specific direction. The doubters will adjust their takes eventually. They always do. The question is whether you were paying attention before the rest of the world caught up. Here at Gridiron Ground we cover this kind of story before it becomes obvious, before the mainstream catches on and acts like they saw it coming all along. If you want to be in that conversation early, hit that subscribe button right now and join the Gridiron Ground community. We are building something here, and Shedeur Sanders is just one of the stories we are tracking. Drop your prediction for his Week 1 starting status in the comments. The floor is yours. We will see you in the next breakdown.